This is Retro Screamers here again with Mike, and he's putting up with another doll baby.
It's okay, guys, really. You know what? Real men can play with dolls.
This was 1986, and my sister had one of these. These were called the My Child dolls. And they came out around the same time the Cabbage Patch Kids came out. They were adorable little girls and little boys. And just like the Cabbage Patch Kids, they came with a diaper, and they came with a little mark on it that says My Child instead of the Cabbage Patch mark. But they're very unique, and I remember right, yep, they got little belly buttons.
Oh.
Oh, don't look at my smacking.
I was looking at the belly button. It's a cute doll. I'm harmless.
But anyhow, these cute little girls here and little boys were called My Child, and they only lasted for like a year or two. They weren't very, very popular at all. They didn't last very long.
I wonder why. I like that they have the cloth feel to them as opposed to the plastic that...
I seem to remember, now this is just from my memory, so if someone's watching this, they'll say, oh, no, you were wrong. But I seem to remember them only being a few years. Like they weren't really something that took off as strong. Or maybe it was just near the end of the 80s, and you know, by the end of the 80s and the 90s, the Transformers line was dying off. The G.I. Joe line wasn't really that impressive anymore, and it's just, a lot of the stuff you remember from the 80s was just dying off by that time.
The only doll that really kind of lasted through was Barbie, unfortunately.
Yeah.
She didn't have any competition.
Yep, and it was an age, and I'm not going to be able to spotlight it because I don't know where the NES is right now. But at the end of the 80s, it was that time when the action figures seemed like they were fading out a little bit. They still had the Ninja Turtles, but it was more of a gaming time.
It was.
It was a time when people wanted NES and Sega. And
you went from Atari 2600s that had faded out, 7200s, 4 years later, 5 years later, 8-bit gaming took over, and classic toys like this that could have been didn't get a chance to take off. Yeah,
they kind of like faded out, and it was more of the video game age.
Before Facebook, people. Before Facebook.
Yeah, you know what? And that's funny. I'm gonna have to add this to it. One time I had a friend of mine, Jason, and Jason, if you're watching this, you'll probably get me later. But he said one time, before Transformers, what was there? And it's like, you know what, if you think about it, before Transformers there was Star Wars.
That's the big one, right.
And there was, you know, if you want to look at the smaller stuff, that still was pretty cool. There was Micronauts.
Yep.
There was Shogun Warriors.
Oh, Shogun Warriors. I had those, yeah.
And then Masters of the Universe came out right before Transformers.
They were what brought us to commercials that could be for kids that sold toys that were cartoons.
Yeah, so I mean, if you think about it, before there was any online stuff, there was the 80s.
And the 80s gave us some of the greatest toys still today.
Yep, and we're going to get to our last toy item of the 12 days of Christmas.
Cool. Can't wait.